In a sleepy Oregon town where nothing much ever happens, 7 bodies were discovered in a burned-down farmhouse in 1997. What investigators found shocked the nation. Symbols etched into the walls, a diary filled with apocalyptic prophecies, and a vanished leader known only as Father Gabriel. Nearly 3 decades later, the case remains unsolved. But one thing is clear: these murders weren't about money or revenge. They were about belief, twisted, absolute, and deadly. The group called themselves a Covenant of the Flame. To outsiders, they were reclusive but peaceful, people who wanted to live off the grid, worship in private, and escape the moral decay of modern society. To insiders, they were the chosen, called to survive a coming cleansing fire that would rid the earth of impurity. Their leader, Gabriel Winthrop, who preferred the title Father Gabriel, was a charismatic former seminary dropout who claimed to have received divine visions after a near-death experience in 1988. He taught that the U.S. government was under demonic control, and that only the faithful few could be saved through purification by fire and obedience to the true covenant. They lived communally in a remote farmhouse outside Molalla, Oregon, disconnected from the outside world. No phones, no schools, no hospitals, only prayer, fasting, and the teachings of Gabriel. On October 11, 1997, firefighters were called to a blaze consuming a large farmhouse. By the time the flames were extinguished, 7 bodies were found inside, 4 adults and 3 children. All were members of the Covenant, but what initially looked like a tragic fire soon turned sinister. The victims hadn't died of smoke inhalation. They preferred the title Father Gabriel, was a charismatic former seminary dropout who claimed to have received divine visions after a near-death experience in 1988. He taught that the U.S. government was under demonic control, and that only the faithful few could be saved through purification by fire and obedience to the true covenant. They lived communally in a remote farmhouse outside Molalla, Oregon, disconnected from the outside world. No phones, no schools, no hospitals, only prayer, fasting, and the teachings of Gabriel. On October 11, 1997, firefighters were called to a blaze consuming a large farmhouse. By the time the flames were extinguished, 7 bodies were found inside, 4 adults and 3 children. All were members of the Covenant, but what initially looked like a tragic fire soon turned sinister. The victims hadn't died of smoke inhalation. They had been stabbed, shot, or poisoned before the fire was set. 1 adult female had been bound with chains. 2 children had been given lethal doses of phenobarbital. The killer, or killers, had tried to erase everything with fire, but they missed something crucial: the basement. There, detectives found a locked room lined with handwritten journals, crude videotapes, and what looked like ritual objects: animal skulls, inverted crosses, and a mural depicting an angel of fire bringing judgment to a burning city. One of the journals contained a final entry, written just days before the murders. It read, "The time draws near. The cleansing begins with us. Those who disobey the covenant shall be cut off, burned away, made holy through pain." But perhaps the most chilling detail: there were supposed to be 8 members living in that farmhouse. One was missing: Father Gabriel. The manhunt for Gabriel Winthrop became one of the largest cult-related fugitive cases in U.S. history. But no trace of him was ever found. No fingerprints, no credit card usage, no confirmed sightings. The FBI classified the case as a domestic terrorism threat, citing concerns that Gabriel might resurface with another group. But leads dried up fast. Cult experts believe that Gabriel either died in the fire and was misidentified, or he escaped and changed identities. Then, in 2001, a possible break came. In Montana, police raided a compound owned by a separatist group called the Watchmen of Light. Inside were 12 armed adults and several children, all living in conditions nearly identical to those of the Covenant. Among them was a man named Brother Elias, who bore a striking resemblance to aged-up renderings of Gabriel Winthrop. But DNA testing proved inconclusive, and no charges stuck. To this day, no one knows who set the fire. No arrests have been made, and no one knows what happened to Father Gabriel. Why did the murders happen? Experts believe the answer lies in the Covenant's apocalyptic doctrine. Father Gabriel preached that America was under judgment, and that even among the faithful there would be trials by flame, purges to test loyalty. It's possible that 1 or more members tried to leave or challenge Gabriel's authority. The journals mention doubtful hearts and discipline through holy fire. Another theory is even darker, that this was a planned mass murder-suicide ritual orchestrated by Gabriel to usher in the prophesied apocalypse. But if so, why were some of the victims bound and drugged? Why were there signs of struggle? A third possibility, someone inside the group snapped, perhaps under the pressure of Gabriel's control and threats of doom. But if that were the case, why did they vanish without a trace? No theory fully fits. Only one thing is certain. Belief, unquestioning, radical belief, was at the core. In the years since, the story of the Covenant has become the subject of documentaries, podcasts, and conspiracy theories. Some believe Gabriel is still alive, hiding in plain sight, perhaps leading another cult under a new name. Others think the entire Covenant was a front for something darker, experiments in mind control, or rogue government activity. The town of Molalla has tried to forget, but the scars remain. The land where the farmhouse stood is now an empty field. No one has rebuilt. Locals call it Judgment Hill. The victims, Lisa Moyle, Andrew and Bethany Cray, the Roussel children, and others, are often forgotten in the shadow of Gabriel's myth. But they were real people, mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters who believed they were following something true, until it killed them. To this day, the Covenant cult murders remain unsolved. No arrests, no convictions, just ashes, silence, and a single unanswered question. How far would you go for what you believe? For Father Gabriel and his followers, the answer may have been all the way to the end. If you found this story chilling, you're not alone. Cults, killers, and belief have always shared a dark crossroads. In this case, one of fire, prophecy, and control, is a stark reminder how dangerous blind faith can be. What do you think happened to Father Gabriel? Was he a prophet, a madman, or something far more calculating? Let us know in the comments. And remember, sometimes the most terrifying crimes are the ones we can't explain.